So with the window frame, again, this is going to be the exterior one. We'll get to the interior ones later on, but we'll just kind of get the exterior segment set up first so that we can kind of move on knowing that the outside's taken care of instead of kind of going back and forward. And the outside tends to be a little handier as well. So I'm just going to strip some polys off the side like we did with this frame. I'm just going to use the same basic setup, I think. But again, this is mirrored. So for the next couple steps, I'm going to keep my wireframe turned on, I think, because I want to get a better visual representation of where those edges are. And I want to apply this. So with the object selected, I just want to come over to my mirror, click the down menu and click apply. Now, because we don't need the middle edge rings here anymore, I will hold shift and select, and now, hold alt to select the loop. Now if I hold shift and select the second loop, it'll add that to the selection. And I'll press X and dissolve edges. So with the modifier applied on this, I want to come and grab my polygon select, and I'll select the inside faces again, and I'll press Shift D and right click to set that back where it was. I want to press P and separate by selection. Now I can select just that selection here, and similar modifier, I'm going to make solidify, and I want to drag it into the negative value while holding shift. And window frames have a bit more thickness than door frames, so I will add even thickness there to straighten out those edges and look at it from the front. Comparison between this and that, I think it looks alright. So I'll go with that for the moment. And again, I'm going to... Now, see, we can't scale this the same way we done the last because the pivot point here isn't centered. Remember, we added the offset to this. So to show, I'll go into top down, and you can see it's not centered to the object. So what we might need to do instead would be to eyeball this. So I'm just going to press Ctrl Z, move that back, and I think I want the frame to be further to the front of the window anyway, so that's probably not too big a deal. So I'm going to select the outside edges. I forgot there's a thickness modifier on this, so the edges. And I'll turn off my snap. I'm going to move this back maybe this much. No, they actually have to out, don't they? I think they extrude. And on that note, it is too thick. Yeah, I forgot that there's a concrete border around the wooden frame on these normally. So I'm gonna just make this a little thinner on my modifier, just maybe something like that. And this is really kind of like my thought process kind of comes as like I'm not really using a reference for this because it's not specific enough. I think I'm kind of just basing this on what I see every day. I would normally use reference, but not for something this basic, but feel free to get your reference if you feel it would help. Okay, I'll leave that as it is there. And now I think I'm just going to duplicate this object to make the inside frame. So I'll press Shift D, right click, and now I'm going to press S and scale it down so that it's roughly on the edges, touching the sides there, I mean. And I'll move it up. And again, this doesn't have to be accurate because we're going to go into our front view. And I'm going to go into vertex select. I'm going to select X-ray. And I'm going to manually adjust this again. So I'll just pull along the X-axis until I'm in line with the concrete frame, or what will be the concrete frame when we're textured. And align the top. and the bottom. Right, so I want to leave this modifier live on this because I don't know how thick I want to make this yet. I know it's not going to be as deep in the wall as this because these frames are quite thin, so I will just drag it backwards like a lot of it. I'll pull it back maybe. Let's go this far for the moment. Now the bottom of these windows are quite thick because you have to put a stone windowsill there as well, or whatever those things are called. I'll worry about that in a second though. I'm just gonna now pull this part of the frame forward. Maybe this much should do it. And now I know I'm gonna need to go thicker than that, so I'll drag this thickness down a bit further. Maybe that. Okay. And now what I want to quickly do is I want to make the sill area for this. So I'm going to come out of that object mode completely. I want to press Shift and A, and I want to create a mesh. I'll make cube. I'm a mile off center, and I want this to stay on the grid. So I'll turn grid on and drag it over. Now I'll go into front view, and I'm going to scale this so that it's roughly one grid space either side of the window itself, and I'll pull it up. And now I'm going to scale down on the Z axis, so I'll press S, drag along the Z and middle click, and I want to just get enough thickness in here so that it can represent that sill area. And I'll do the same on the Y axis, so S and drag on the Y and middle click, and now I can manually turn snap off. I'll manually pull that out. And I think these normally have a small area that dips as well, so I'll just pull it down a little. Yeah, I think you want it just a little bit below that above that concrete frame, so I'm going to just pull it up maybe this much, and I'll adjust the inner frame as well to match that, so I'll select the bottom face and let's pull that up. Now I think this needs an edge out to probably here, the sill I mean. So I'm going to press Control R, I'll run an edge loop around, and before I click I just want to move this. So you see that yellow or the orange line is moving. I want to move it probably this much out, and I want to then bring this line up level with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here into my transform. I want to click on the Z value here, Control and C to copy that, and hopefully then if I just select this I can paste that in with Control V. There we go. That's probably a little extreme of a dip, so what I can do is grab the top and bring it down, and I'll just adjust then this window to do the same, the frame. It's a little thin looking, so I'll take the bottom and I'll pull that down. Alright, so I want to look at that from front view, and I can see there's a slight gap here. Probably not a big deal, but it would bug me, so there we go. Now these are normally not that straightforward, so I'm going to do the same trick I've done again with the door. What I'll do is apply the thickness. If I'm happy, I'll just double check that. I'm happy enough, I think, yeah. So I'm going to apply this, and I'm going to select this piece, and I want to, along the interface, I'll come into edit mode, I'm going to select edge, and I'll press Control or to put in a loop. But before I click, I'm going to run the mouse wheel up once, and what that'll do is it'll turn it into 2. And this can happen as many as you want. So 2 to me looks a little thin. I could click and move that, adjust that by moving it around. I don't really want that though, because what I want to do is give it 3. And that's the kind of thickness I want, but I don't need that middle line. That doesn't matter though, so I can select that, right click to snap it to the center, and I can then select that middle line, X, and dissolve. So all I wanted was for this piece in the middle to be an equal value on either side. And again, I'm going to hold Alt, click in the corner, I want to select that run of polygons, and I'll come over to extract or extrude along normals, and I'll click and drag that out. Now, that's the basics of a window frame done. I just want to add a divide in it now. Depending on the type of window, I guess. What we could do is, if I wanted to make this like a double slidey window, which I think I will do that. What I'll do is I'm going to duplicate this frame, 50, and with snap turned on, I'm just going to pull this to the side for the moment. Now I want to simplify this because I applied that modifier before having this idea. So what I'll do is I'm going to run an edge loop either side of this. So select it in edge mode. I'm going to press Ctrl and R, and that'll snap me in the center on either side, and everything to the outside of that I will delete. So I'll hold Shift and I'll press Alt again and just click that edge and X and delete faces. And then because I got this floating geometry here, press L, it'll select only that and X faces. So now I'm left with this open piece. I just need to close off the faces here. And I'll go into regular select, hold Shift and F. So now that's going to be like the frame housing. I think it should probably be wide enough. I reckon it's okay there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to pull that back into place. I'll go into front view and I want to scale it again just so that it's on the touching the inside of this along these lines here. And I'm going to make this 2 parts. So I'll come into vertex select. I have to go to X-ray for this, and I'm going to click and drag on the bottom, and I'm going to move this up. So it'll be like as if one window slides up and one slides down. That kind of design. And I'll pull this to the top, just underneath that housing section. And that should probably do for the moment. I'll come out of X-ray, select it, and the pivot point of it is down here. I don't really want that for the moment. I want it to be in the center, so I'm going to right click, and where it says set origin, you want to set origin to geometry, and that'll set the pivot point directly in the center of the overall volume of the geometry itself. Now with that, I'm going to press Shift and D, and I'm going to drag it down. So it's snap down, and there's a bit of a gap here. So I'm going to turn snap off, and I want to manually pull this up. So I can see it's just resting above the frame housing there. Just bring it down a little, and There's no gap there, which is perfect. So that kind of got, as far as eyeballing things go, I don't think you can get better than that. What I want to do though is, I want to make them a little thinner. So I'll press S to scale them along the Y axis. And now I just want to bring one out further than the other. I don't know if it's usually the bottom one was more protrusion than the top. But the idea anyway is that this one should be a down sliding window and this one would be top sliding. So I guess that means that there can't be any overlap and it has to be flush. So I will select these again, S, scale in, and I'll make them much thinner, maybe this. And I'll pull this one as far forward as I can while still having a slight overlap here, because you want that shadow to catch when it comes to baking ambient maps. And on the reverse side of it, I want to pull this back to get the same. And I think as far as the game model goes, like that's going to be okay. Like if that was to slide up, that looks alright. It's just it's a little sharp here. I don't want them to look sharp, I want them to be kind of rounded. So I will select these, I'm going to press / to go isolate them. And I'll press tab. Now I adjusted the scale on these. I pinched them and I scaled them on the Z axis, and I done all sorts of changes to them. So before I do anything, I want to press the Q key, I want to set all transforms on this. So that now set the pivot point way back to the center of the world. I don't want that though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click again, say set origin to geometry, and because I have two objects selected, it set the pivot point to the center of each independently, which is exactly what I wanted. But now that also means that I can add a bevel around this without it being twisted, not a cut, a bevel. And that's Control and B for bevel. Would help though if I had the selection first. Right, Control B, and I'm slightly going to move my mouse so that this will round the corners just a little. Just give it a little bit of a softer flow when it comes to baking the map. Alright, so I'll come out of isolation by pressing / and we're looking good to go there, I think. Yeah, well we could add, well we will need to add a polygon on each one because we want to have a window in this. The material will be set to almost transparent though, so it'll look like glass, but I think for the sake of how it's looking, I think I'm just going to fill it in. So I will Shift A, create a cube, and I'm going to turn my snap on for this one. I want to bring it in line, and I'm going to adjust this so that it fits one of those windows. So I'm going to scale it overall and go into front view, bring it up, and I'll go into X-ray, and again scale down, and I just wanted to fit the inside of this window. Now the glass is going to sit in between those two parts of the frame, so I want the orange line to be on the inside frame. Again, it's only a game. A game prop, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be anyway real life, but it's good to keep these little design fundamentals, I guess. So with that then, I want to go press tab, go select vertex, and I'll select the top and drag that down so that it's on the inside frame, and I'll drag the bottom part up. So now it's fitting the window frame, but it's miles too thick. So I will again come out of edit mode and press S to scale and scale along the Y. And I only want a very thin sheet of glass here, so something like that. And I'll come out of X-ray, and this will give me a better overall feel of where this is sitting. So I want it sitting in the center of this. And again, this doesn't matter as much, I guess. Once you can see that lip and once the shadow will catch there, it'll give you the illusion that all is well with it. It's not gonna look bad at all. So I'll bring this one up, and I'll have to bring it back a little. So again, it's cutting into that geometry there. We just want to get a lip on it. Now, that's pretty good. So now what we want for the moment now is that when this window moves, because when you're setting this up and you're building whatever you're building with, if you're moving an object, you want to be able to move the object like independently along with another one. Now we can do that by parenting. And what I mean by that is, if I want this window to open, I don't want just the frame to open when I move it. I want it to bring the glass pane along with it. So we need to parent that. And in order to do that, what I've got to do is I first select the object that I want to be the child, in this case, the glass. And then the parent of the child is going to be the wooden frame. And with that, if I press P, nothing will happen because I didn't press Control P. And once I press Control P, it's set parent to, and you want to select object. So now when I select the window frame and lift it, it brings that glass along with it, which is always convenient. And depending on how much the video series goes, if I end up taking it far enough to show you how to bring these into Unity and set up, well, Unity is the game engine of my choice. I'm pretty sure you could do it with Unreal as well. I won't be covering that though. But I could show you how to set this up using constraints as well in Unity, so that you have an object you pull on the window is going to bring the glass with it as well. Like it matches up pretty well on both software. So that's one window for the moment. Again, so I have the glass parented to the bottom frame on this one. I want to do the same with the top frame. So I first select the child piece, which is the glass, the parent, which is the frame, Control P, and I'll set to object. And you can probably see where I'm going with this now as well. So I want them to move along when I move the window frame or the wall part itself. So I'm going to select. First, I'm actually going to. Should I join these? I'll join these for the moment. I'm going to press Ctrl J and join them. No, I'm not, because it's going to apply the modifier, which I don't want. So I'll first apply that. Now I'll select the inner frame, hold Control, no, hold Shift and select the outer frame and press Ctrl J. So that joined the two of them. So now when I select this and move it, it moves as I want. I'll actually make the sill part of this as well for the moment. I can always detach these later if I need. Yeah, so now I want to make these windows the child object of this part. So I'll press, first select the bottom, then the top, and now I'll select the frame and I'll press Control P, set parent to object, and then I will select the sill itself, select the wall, Control P, set parent to object. So now when I just grab this piece and move it around, the whole object will move with it. And that's what makes it pretty convenient then when you're using the grid. And if you wanted to have 3 of these in a row, you know, you could just select that, tell it where to move, and then you could just select each and Control D to duplicate it and move it along. It becomes a pretty fast process that way. But that's for a later time. And for the moment, we will probably just continue with, I suppose I'll make a window for the large, a window frame for the large window next.